Hi everyone, in this tutorial we're going to take a look at using socks to make doll size sweaters. This is a really fun and easy project, so let's jump on in and get started. In front of me right here I have a few different kinds of socks just to show you what you're going to be looking for. The best socks to use would be something that's more in the knee-high length so that you have a good portion of the sock above this heel section, especially if the heel is shaped and in a separate color. So you want to look for something like that that is a knee-high length and that also has a good amount of ribbing at the top. It gives you a little bit more to work with when you're putting your sweater together. So these socks that are sitting here, these two I picked up at Target. Right now during the holiday season they were just a couple dollars, but after the holiday season when all this stuff is on clearance is a great time to pick this stuff up for very little money. So these ones were from there. This pair right here I got from a high-end store called Tud Baker. These also were on clearance, super clearanced out, and they're a knee-high length, a good vibrant color with a good amount of ribbing. So this was a good one to just pick up to try to make a sweater for a different time of the year. Then when you're working with the socks, really the only tools that you're going to need besides your standard sewing machine, regular presser foot, are a rotary cutter and a good pair of fabric scissors. So you can use those interchangeably depending on how you have your pattern laid out. And here we have two socks side by side. I just want to show you the difference of one that's more the knee-high length and then the standard crew sock. So this one has the shorter amount of ribbing at the top, and this longer one has actually a lot thicker piece of ribbing around the top of the sock. So this style is better because when you actually cut this apart and open it up flat, you have twice as much of this. It's enough to do a whole entire sweater. So you want to look for socks like that. This one works really well. This one can work. You'll just need to find some knit fabric or ribbing that is the same color, and then for the cuffs and the neck, you could use that other fabric and then just keep this existing ribbing right here as the base or the waistline of your sweater. The patterns that we're going to use are either the pullover sweater or the Piccadilly sweater. Both are cut just from 3 pieces. You have the front, the back, and the sleeves, and then the ribbing. Complete the sweater with the waistband, the cuffs, and the neckline. All right, to make the sweater with the pullover sweater pattern, I have the pieces here just traced out. I have front that's cut on fold, back's cut too, and sleeve is cut too. And then I have my 2 longer length socks. So I can kind of play around with it a little bit and just look to see where I'm going to be able to put these down and fit them on to cut them out. So again, these socks are very stretchy compared to normal fabric. So if it looks like it's a little bit too small, you can slide your piece around and really kind of stretch that sock to fit. But as I'm looking right here, I'm going to notice that I have enough length above the heel to cut the back and the front. The front will fit right in here. If I leave this on a fold, I can easily cut out a single front. Now for the back, it is a little bit narrow. So I'm gonna look at this and really just see how much stretch I have in this sock, and I'll work with it a little bit. Look at the difference here. And if you're gonna be short anything at all, I would cut very carefully so that you have your entire shoulder and your arm and lose that little bit of difference off the center back. So you'll have less overlap in the back, but because the sock is so stretchy, you can sew this together and it will stretch to fit to close in the back. Then we'll use the lower portions of the sock to cut each sleeve. So I'm going to cut these open and lay them flat, and then I'll be able to put my sleeve piece on. I could also fold my sleeve in half and cut that on the fold just like that and cut it out, and then have one sleeve cut from each sock as well. And for this project, I'm going to go ahead and just actually cut off the ribbing. So I'm going to cut this right here around the bottom and expose that ribbing itself. I think I will go in and actually cut it so that I can open it up. And if I cut it apart, you'll notice, see, it's folded in half. And this ribbing is 2 colors, so I'll have coordinating colors. It's not all red. So I'll just need to decide where I want to put the red ribbing and where I'd want to put the gold ribbing. But I'm just going to go all the way around and just cut this open, and then I'll have those pieces to work with. Now for the waistband piece, we are going to need to sew these together to make one piece that's long enough to go all the way around for that measurement that needs to be about 12 inches in total length. Now you can see these pieces coming together as I have them trimmed apart. So here's the two ribbing sections from the top of the sock. These are the two upper portions of the sock where I'm going to cut front on folds, and the back is going to be cut too. Then for the sleeve, I'm coming in right along this folded side, and I'm just cutting this so that I can just lay this flat. And then I will have two larger sections that I can lay on top of each other, place the sleeve on, and I will cut out the sleeve as well. So there we have that back piece cut out. And again, you can see this is a little bit shorter than the width of the pattern. But like I said, the sock is really stretchy, and we'll just sew this up a little bit and then have the back close with either a hook or a snap at the top, and it will work fine. It won't have the overlap or the amount of hem that's built into the original design. So now that we have these three pieces cut out, we can work to do the measurements of the ribbing. So for this particular design, I'm going to use the red around the waistband and then the yellow on the cuffs and the neckline. Now the measurements for the ribbing are 1/2 inch for the sleeve and the neck and 3/4 inch for the waistband. Now this is if you have a sweater that you can actually cut ribbing from and it doesn't need to be folded, so it has a finished edge. So since this ribbing is cut off of the sock and it's going to have cut raw edges, we want to have that be twice as wide. So we're going to want an inch wide strip for each cuff, and then we will fold it in half to sew it to the sweater sleeve. So I'm just going to cut this apart, and I'm going to use what I have right here, which is a little bit under 2 inches when it's laying flat. So I'm simply just going to cut this in half along this length. And then each one of these I'll be able to just fold in half and then sew that right to the base of the sleeve, and that will be the cuff that wraps around the arm. Then for the waistband, it's 3/4 inch, which would be 1.5 inches in total width if we were going to fold that in half. So we have that piece from here. We just need to sew them together to make a piece that's twice as long. Now we have all the pieces cut and ready to go. So here's the front that was cut on a fold, the two back pieces, the two sleeves. I have the waistband, which is 2 sections sewn together, and 2 cuff pieces, and the neckband piece. And then I went ahead and just decided to do the neck in red, the waist in red, and then the cuffs on the sleeves will be yellow. And again, these will be folded in half, and the neck is cut from what I had left over. So it's a little bit narrower than the original pattern, but any of it is fine. That's the best part about this sock method, is it's very stretchy, it's very forgiving, and you can kind of play around with it a little bit and have thicker or narrower binding, and it will all still come together and be a very cute finished sweater. So then we're just gonna go ahead and work through the pattern instructions. We will take the front and back of the sweater and sew them together at the shoulder seams. Then we will bring in each sleeve and attach the sleeves at both arm sides, and so you'll have the body of your sweater constructed. Then we will bring in the neck binding, fold it in half, and sew that right around the entire neckline edge. The cuffs are folded in half and sewn to the base hemline of each sleeve, and then it's just folded under. That's peeking out right from the hemline. Then after that, we will go through and fold right sides together, sew the side seams, and then we will work to attach the waistband. Once we have both side seams sewn for this particular sweater, I'll just show you how I'm going to finish off the back. Since it is a sock and it was cut a little bit narrower than the back side of the pattern piece, I don't have quite as much to fold over, but I'm just going to take a piece of lace. Now if you have anything that's lightweight but not stretchy, this is just under 1/2 inch wide. I'm just going to sew this right down to the inside of the sweater with a straight stitch as close to this raw edge as I can, and then once I sew my center back seam at 1/4 inch, it'll cause it to fold over, and basically this lace is not going to show it all, but it will keep it from stretching out. If I try to just finish this edge on a standard sewing machine with a zigzag, it's so stretchy, it's just going to get all wonky and stretched out. So the lace is acting as a stabilizer here. And I'm just going to sew this in, again, straight stitch up both sides from top to bottom at the length that it should be to keep the back of the sweater from stretching out. And there is that lace attached, straight stitch down the one side, and then I actually just went ahead and zigzagged those two edges together. So the raw edge of the sweater and the lace on the edge, and then the interior side there is a straight stitch. So I did the straight stitch first to keep that from stretching. So now the back of the sweater won't get any longer than it is supposed to. So now I'm just going to take this with right sides together, match up the bottom, and I'm sewing just about 1.5 inches up from the base with 1/4 inch seam allowance to connect the center back before we attach this waistband. And here we have that lower portion of the center back seam sewn. So you can see now it's stitched at 1/4 inch, but once it folds open flat, you actually can't see that lace anymore, and that will continue to happen as we finish up this back opening when we connect it with a hook or a snap at the top. So I've gone ahead and sewn this in a loop, and because this was cut and sewn together to begin with, for this I want to be sure that I match up the side seams of the waistband with the side seams of the sweater so that I don't have a seam in my ribbing at center front. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to fold it with wrong sides together to create the waistband piece that is folded in half. This is going to be my finished edge. So I'm going to line up the raw edges on the inside of the sweater. So I'll pin them to the side seams first, and I want to make sure that it's not twisted. So I have this folded up all the way around. You can press this to make sure that you have it folded nice and evenly. So then on the other side seam, I'm going to pin this one down. And then we will just stretch this to fit this opening as we stitch it down. And I'm just going to stitch from the inside in a complete circle. So I'll stitch on the ribbing side so that I can be sure that I have an even seam allowance and an even amount of the ribbing that's peeking out from the bottom. And I'll sew this just shy of 1/4 inch so that I have a good amount of ribbing that pops out around the bottom edge. Straight stitch, and then I'll finish it off. And if you have a serger, you can always just sew so that it finishes your edge all at one time. And there we have that sweater all finished up. So now at this point, we just have this center back opening at the top that we can finish with either a hook that will just have these edges butt up against each other. You can slightly overlap and have a snap or a button and loop closure on the back opening of this sweater. It'll just depend on, again, how big your sock was, how stretchy it was, and how much room you have to play with. I think for the most part, you should be able to have a snap right on there, and you can close the back of that sweater easily. You could also use hook and loop tape, but you want to pay attention to the type of sock material that you have that may snag over time. And there you can see too how we have that it's nicely finished at center back when it's sewn up a little bit from the bottom, and so that waistband ribbing just goes all the way around the entire sweater. So we have red at the neck, red at the waist, and then that yellow right at the bottom of each sleeve opening. So we have a cute sweater here finished. This looks perfect for a little boy. It honestly reminds me of something from Toy Story, I think because of Pizza Planet or the yellow and red for Woody. But it all kind of ties it together. It'd be really cute on a boy doll. You could use this for a holiday sweater or just any sweater. If you want to jump in and decorate this to make it a holiday sweater, the things I would recommend adding, you have all of these planet or circle areas that you could embellish with either a little bell, a sparkly ball. You could do fabric glitter glue and outline each one to be sparkly, and they would look more like ornaments all over the sweater. So you could give them some three-dimensional look to pull that out and really add some cute embellishment. Different colors would be great, or you could stick with the gold and really go in and have a lot of little sparkle around each one. All right, so that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial and you've picked up some tips for working with socks to make some really cute doll sweaters.